Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're diving deep into the wild and sometimes, pretty brutal world of how living things interact. We're talking about those hidden connections that tie every single thing together, from the tiniest bug to the biggest predator. So, let's get into it.
So I want you to picture a bustling wetland, just teeming with life, right? You've got birds, fish, insects, plants. They're all crammed into the same space. It looks like total chaos. But there's actually an order to it all. So the big question is, with everyone fighting for the same resources, how on earth does it all work? How do they all manage to survive side by side?
Well, it really all boils down to one huge idea. Everything is connected. Seriously, no living thing is an island. They all depend on each other in this incredibly complex web of life just to get their basic needs met. And that brings us to the core concept for today, an interaction. It's basically any relationship where living things are relying on each other to live. Food, shelter, you name it. This dependency, this is the engine that drives literally every ecosystem on our planet. Okay, so let's start with the most dramatic, the most direct kind of interaction, the one you probably thought of first. We're talking about the age-old story of the hunter and the hunted. The terms are pretty simple, right? But they are so powerful. The predator is the hunter, and the prey is the animal being hunted for food. This one dynamic, predator and prey, shapes the behavior, the evolution, and the population of just countless species out there. And we see all the classics here, right? A cheetah running down a gazelle, an eagle grabbing a rabbit. But hang on, look at that last one. A Venus flytrap and a fly. Yep, you saw that right. Predation is not just for animals. Plants can be predators too. How cool is that? Okay, so some animals hunt each other for food. That makes sense. But what happens when they're not trying to eat each other? They just want the same thing. Well, that's where our next big interaction comes into play, competition. See, competition happens for a really simple reason. Resources are limited. There's only so much food, only so much water, only so much space to go around. So when a bunch of organisms all need that same limited thing, well, they've got to compete for it. Now, competition isn't just one big free-for-all. It actually breaks down into two main types. You've got competition within the same species, that's intraspecies, and then you have competition between different species, which is interspecies. Let's look at a few examples. So here's intraspecies competition in action. These hippos, they're not just splashing around for fun. No, they are fiercely defending their territory, because that guarantees them food and water. And those male mynah birds, they're competing for the ultimate prize, a chance to find a mate and pass on their genes. Now let's flip the coin. A lion might make a kill, but it better eat fast because it's going to have to compete with a whole pack of vultures for those leftovers. Or think about a watering hole in a drought. You've got zebras and gnus, two totally different species, competing for the exact same precious resource. And we can't forget about the plants. A dense forest is basically a silent, slow-motion battlefield. Trees are constantly competing. They're fighting for space for their roots, for water and nutrients in the soil. And maybe most importantly, they are stretching higher and higher, all competing for that essential sunlight they need to live. So, we've covered hunting and competing, but sometimes organisms form these really close, long-term relationships. It's called symbiosis. And you can think of it like nature's version of having roommates. Some are great, some are awful, and some are just really, really weird. And these roommate situations, they basically come in three main flavors. Okay, just look at this picture. It's a bird inside a crocodile's mouth. Wild, right? This is a perfect example of something called mutualism. It's a relationship where everybody wins. The bird gets a totally free meal picking stuff out of the croc's teeth, and the crocodile gets a free dental cleaning. It's the perfect partnership. So the dynamic here is super simple. In mutualism, both organisms get a clear benefit. It's a classic plus-plus situation, a total win-win. All right, our next type is called commensalism, and I want you to think of this as the harmless freeloader. You've got these barnacles attached to a crab shell. The barnacles get a free ride and a mobile home, which is great for them. But the crab, it's not helped, but it's not hurt either. It's just carrying on with its day. So in this relationship, the dynamic is different. One organism gets a plus, a real benefit. The other one is completely unaffected. It gets a zero. No harm, no foul. And that brings us to the dark side of living together, Parasitism. This is the toxic moocher. You've got a tick that latches onto a cat to feed on its blood. The tick definitely benefits, it gets a meal, but the poor cat is harmed, it loses blood, it gets itchy, and it can even get sick. So the reality of parasitism is pretty stark. The parasite gets a benefit, a big plus, but the host is harmed, a definite minus. And this happens in the plant world too, with things like the Rafflesia flower. It's a parasite that literally steals all its nutrients from a host vine just to survive. Okay, so we've seen predators, competitors, and these strange symbiotic partners. But why does any of this actually matter? Well, it's because all these little individual stories are the building blocks of a healthy, balanced ecosystem. You see, these interactions aren't just random events. They serve really critical functions. Predation keeps populations in check so one species doesn't just take over. Competition helps ensure that the strongest survive and pass on their genes. All of it weaves together to create this delicate balance of nature, where if you pull out just one piece, the whole system can start to unravel. And this really shows you the massive real-world impact. An owl in a plantation isn't just one bird eating one rat. No way. It's a crucial predator controlling an entire rodent population, preventing them from destroying crops. The tree that outcompetes all its neighbors is the one that gets to seed the next generation of the whole forest. These small dramas literally shape the world we live in. So next time you look outside your window, don't just see a bird or a tree. I want you to think about the hidden connections. Is that bird competing with another one for a worm? Is there moss growing on that tree in some kind of symbiotic relationship? What are the unseen interactions that are shaping the world right now, just outside your window?